Hey everybody, welcome. It's Pete. Welcome to today's episode of today's Best Stock Picks. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, and we want to get right into today talking about an affliction that is hurting a lot of traders right now, and that is the desire to call a market reversal or to catch every time the market turns around just because it doesn't go up instantly when you want it to go up. It's a big problem, and the reason it's a problem is you're leaving all this money on the table, waiting for the market to turn around because we feel like, oh, it can't go up any higher. If you read Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, everybody knows it's never too high, it's never too low. Obviously, zero is zero, but although that was disproved with oil last month as well when it went negative. But we're gonna get into a list of stocks that I'm watching. We're gonna talk about why I'm watching them. But again, I want to talk about the disease of wanting to call a top or a bottom with consistency. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not even saying don't do it or watch out for it. What I'm saying is there's conditions that lead to a market reversal. Some of them are on a day-to-day basis where we go from well bid to well offered, and that might be a short-term reversal. There might be other conditions where the market goes up and goes sideways, which I call a push and a pause, and we kind of slow down before we have either a continuation or a change of trend, which, by the way, I got a really good question yesterday about what time frame do I watch to determine a longer-term change of trend, and obviously longer term is relative. But it's always on the daily chart. I'm obviously, we're going to look at it in a second. I'm obviously looking at the monthly, weekly, and daily all at the same time. But when I'm doing my pure game planning, my pure tape reading, drawing trend lines, drawing boxes, and doing all that kind of stuff, it's always on the daily charts with no moving averages. Of course, I want to know where the moving averages are, but I'm only looking at it from the perspective of, am I basically in a box? And then when we come out of that box, I'll determine if it's a change of trend versus a continuation. Or am I looking at and seeing short-term reversals in momentum where I might move up a trailing stop, which is different from wanting to get short. And that's the problem that I'm seeing, two of them. And when I see the problem, I'm talking about challenges that I see new traders experiencing in our private community when we're trading together in real time. It's the desire to say the stock has slowed down, I put a trade on, I couldn't make money long this week in the stock, that means I want to short it. And no, that's where all the money goes to die. Don't trade against obvious order flow. And here's the sequence. The sequence is, depending on how long you're holding your trade, you're going to have monthly trends, weekly trends, daily, day-to-day trends, and then you have intraday trends, which is today's order flow. And as you know, if you've been watching the videos long enough, I'm really watching like a hawk that opening price for the day, the week, and the month to determine as a reference point for reading the tape. So here's the point. The point is we've had all these technology stocks exploding to the upside, some of them, quite a few of them, making all-time highs. You should not be looking to short them. All you have to do is look at W or Shopify or Twilio or Nvidia, these stocks just exploding and continuing to be well bid on weekly charts, continuing to be opening near the low and closing near the high. Stop looking for a spot to short them. Look for a spot to get long until you see a reason. Now, the reason, the minimum reason would be you start to see lower lows and lower highs. But unfortunately, a lot of people that are new, that are still getting their feet wet, are seeing a lower high within the market opening immediately and say, oh, it's turning around, but then it catches a bid and trends up for the next 6 hours to, if not the last 4 or 5 days. And you're leaving money on the table because you're looking for a reversal because you feel it's gone too far. Now, of course, I'm having a video today about continuing to trade in that direction. Today will be the day the market turns around, right? But that's fine. I mean, it's only one time that it's going to turn around. You're going to place so many trades in that direction, in that direction, in that direction, and finding opportunities in that direction that the one time that it turns around should not be your main focus. I'm so red today. What's going on with the light? The one time it turns around should not be the focus. It should be the 8 times or 9 times out of 10 where you did nothing but look for a move in the direction of the current order flow or the longer term order flow, and you made money in that direction that whole time. You can't focus on the one time it turns around and you don't. That is silly town. But it's what we do. We spend all that time saying, oh gosh, I knew it was going to finally turn around, but you left all that money on the table the previous month. So we're going to focus on a couple of stocks. We're going to take a look at the market in general. But most of the stuff that I'm going to be looking at is what I call my BPT3. How's that for a little thing? It's bullish perfect trade that meets 3 criteria. And that generally means that the higher time frames, the monthly, the weekly, and the current daily charts are all in sync, and I'm looking for opportunities to see continuation. And remember, if the market turns around today, tomorrow, whenever it happens to be, that's fine. But we're trading long in all of these stocks until that happens. So don't try and predict when it's going to turn around, because you're going to leave a lot of money on the table by being afraid that it's going to turn around. So you have to assume it is until it's not. And again, the trend is your friend until the end when it bends. Don't focus on the one time it does turn around. Focus on the other 9 times when you could have made money, and don't leave that money on the table. So we're going to head over to the charts, look at where we are in the big picture, and then we'll get into individual ideas. So you can actually see here clearly, if we zoom out on the monthly, the SPY is right at or near the highs for last month, and actually possibly going positive. You can see we're kind of still in a trading range here. This is the main chart that I'm drawing, and this is actually what I was talking about with drawing my box. There's no doubt that we're in an uptrend here. It's a question of whether or not we stay in the box and trade expectation stays a little bit lower, and then it becomes individual stock perspective, meaning the market is not so much on your side. And again, that's relative, because then you could go down to the market, down to your sector, where you can watch the ETFs and a whole bunch of stocks in that sector, and then the individual stocks. So there's ways of stacking the odds in your favor. And then we're basically looking for it to break out. So you can see in the multiple time frames, we do have the SPY on all 3 time frames in the direction that we'd like to see to be a bull. Obviously, we're not massively well bid here, and this week is clearly not finished, but this is actually pretty nice that we're hanging out towards the highs here. So again, for a reference point for the week, as long as that stays green, and especially if we get above last week's highs, it's all signs go to the long side, and with conviction to expect follow through. But again, you still got to manage the downside if it happens to not follow through. But more importantly, you have scenarios that if we pop through and pull back sometime during this week, we would pull back on our expectations for follow through. You probably see a daily candlesticks pull back. Best case scenario, you get 2 nice big red candlesticks looking for an opportunity to bid for the next long. But that's a part of trading, right? That's what we do. And if we mentioned that in the previous Stocks for Breakfast video, I'll post a link to that, where it was essentially you have to be managing risk, leverage, and trade expectation all day. That's what it really means to be in the day of the life of a professional trader. You're essentially ascend to the point where you're a money manager, looking for opportunities to manage risk, assign leverage, and manage those winning trades. So from that perspective, we are still looking for longs, especially in tech stocks, although, like I said, although some of them are in trading ranges, a lot of them are making all-time highs. So this is the list that we're looking at right now. And I think Shop actually brings it home really, really well. That look at just from a trading perspective, and I'm gonna give you 2 different perspectives really quickly, just so we can learn to train our eyes. Look at the green candlesticks from day to day over this period of time. Why would you be doing anything except looking for a spot to get long Shop? We actually had one day here where we called exhaustion. These 2 candlesticks had massive volume, and we said tighten up your trailing stop, and we had a $108 reversal that day. But then we kind of went sideways. So again, that's the difference between get out of your long versus trail your stop versus the trend has changed. The trend has not changed here, and we're continuing to look for long. So again, as long as that picture remains in action, meaning nothing changes, especially in multiple time frames. If you take a look at the weekly chart here, we went inside candlestick to well bid 1, 2, 3, 4. And today would be the 5th week if we continue to trade. And again, I don't use the candlestick and put a label on it until it completes. But you can see that Shop is another one that's actually just so bullish. There's no reason to look at anything else. Now, could it turn around? Yeah. Could that be today? Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm going to wait for it. I'm going to still manage risk and trade in that direction. So again, I want to point out here, you could start to read the tea leaves without even using any special software. But then you go into JP Morgan, look at the consistency. It's a kind of a stark contrast of the consistency of the red candlesticks, and obviously you can get a bigger picture here, but the red candlesticks telling you that the stock just doesn't have any buying in it right now. It's not closing above the open, which is making red candles because we're closing below the open. So like that, you should be able to tell what your trade expectation and the immediate order flow is in that stock on the daily chart, and then you kind of combine that with the longer term charts to give you expectation for follow through. Now, it's not really the greatest sell short idea right now. It's been a sell short on rallies. You can see every time it's opened higher, it's traded lower. We've been actually doing well. I've been doing well with that particular idea. But we are now forming a couple of inside weeks in a row, which that consolidation will lead to a bigger move. So short term, what I just said, the expectation for follow through has diminished a little bit, but certainly on the bearish side. So that would translate into I'm not holding these trades longer, and I'm adjusting, like I said before, that's the day in the life of a trader, adjusting my trade expectation, adjusting my follow through, adjusting my my potentiality for the reward based on how long I hold the trade. And when you put these pieces together, I'm shorting it, but I'm not holding longer periods of time versus stuff like this. So we can get into some other trades. Zoom actually following through for the last weeks. I'm actually not trading Zoom that actively because it's in the news every day. And I personally tend not to go after stocks that are in the news, out of the news. I don't like to be on the wrong side of a shocking news story in both directions. I kind of like have the earnings come out and then I just trade it for the next 3 months. So this actually came up in my scan, but that just because it comes up in the scan doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be a part of my game plan. So Nvidia obviously is going to be the big stock that I'm going to be watching again today. And you can see here clearly well bid multiple days in a row. Love yesterday's price action, again, going down deeper into the volume. It's not exactly exhaustion yet, so I'm going to continue to look to see on the long side until I see a reason not to. That could be today, who knows? But again, trading with confidence to the long side. We've had some other really good ones as well. mRNA, also all-time highs. Twilio, all-time. And we're getting back down into CRM also. CRM actually coming up to some resistance on the daily charts, but you kind of get the idea. So I'm giving you the list of stocks, the potential stocks we're going to be looking at today. Again, heavily weighted towards technology, not a lot on the short side that I'd be looking for. And Roku kind of fits in that area as well, although there's some more congestion to the left side. So I put up Roku and have it in the list because I want to make a distinction between just because it meets the scanning criteria doesn't mean that it's a trade. And that's a mistake that a lot of people make. You still need room to go. You still need reasons for that argument, kind of like what we see here in DDOG. Not really a great day trading stock, but you can see, you look to the left, we're clearing all these levels. Look at the weekly candlestick charts there and how well bid it is, closing on the high for multiple weeks. That's kind of what I started out with today's video and Stocks for Breakfast today, about you're leaving money on the table by waiting for a strong stock to reverse instead of just trading it until you see a reason not to. So that's the list. You can kind of take a look at those. I want to get into the ideas for the day. So that's really where we're setting. The NASDAQ is actually stronger than the SPY right now. We've broken out a lot of the more common market stocks that we watch all the time, Microsoft, Apple, all of those guys, Facebook. They're still super strong, and the NASDAQ's breaking out. Nvidia, you can see here, Broadcom also as well. So again, some point they're going to turn around, but don't be waiting for that to happen. If you're fearful of your trading profits diminishing, just move up your stop loss. It's really that simple. I hope you have a software you can trail it, and as it keeps moving up, you keep moving it up. The best software will keep adjusting it for you as a certain percentage of how high it goes. So in other words, I'll just use round numbers. If it goes up, $1, you can then say, okay, reset at 15 cents, or I'm just using 15 as an example. Reset at 15 cents. It goes up another $1, reset. So every time it makes a new high, it should readjust your trailing stop if you happen to not be able to sit in front of a screen all day. And even if you can, if you have multiple positions, let the software do what it's supposed to do and take you out of a winning trade if it should happen to pull back. If it doesn't, hang on to it and let your profits run. So really the name of the game today is we're still looking to be long tech stocks. At some point, they could possibly turn around. We're not going to wait for that. We're going to continue to trade long. Again, watch, of course, today is going to be the day they turn around, but I don't care because we've been long for weeks. You can't worry about the one time it does turn around, and you have to confident. Oh, one thing that's been pretty interesting is I've been getting a lot of questions about where to get long. And obviously above yesterday's high, you want to see that confirmation of follow through of the order flow. but a lot of these stocks have actually been opening lower and expanding that potential profits to where we take out the previous day's high and then follow through even further. So if your favorite stocks seem to be opening higher, have that buy stop above the market with a limit order so you can get filled at this price, but not worse than that. Don't mark it into you'll get, especially on the open, you'll get slaughtered. You'll get a really bad price and you'll be fighting to work that position. So learn how to use stop limit orders. But then if it opens lower and you still like the bid and you actually can sit in front of your screen and watch that position, there's nothing wrong with bidding lower opening in a stock. I believe that, let me see if I can go back to the screen. I believe it was PayPal that gave us a really good example of that yesterday. Yeah, it didn't follow through on a massive scale, but I want to walk you through a setup that is one of my favorite trading setups. And we'll actually look at it over here. Let me actually pull this out so you can see a little bit better. One of my favorite strategies is bidding a strong stock at the previous day's low if it's possible. And you can see here almost to the penny, here is the previous day's low and here is yesterday's low. And again, it didn't follow through in a massive way, but it's not about the follow through. We can't do anything about the follow through. It's more about the trade setup, and bidding yesterday's low in that stock turned out to be a pretty opportune trade. So especially if it closes on the lows in a bullish idea, you should be bidding the previous day's low or watching maybe it dips below a little bit and gets back up. If it goes below, you can set a buy stop above the previous low, have your stop at today's, and then you get a really nice, today's low, and then get a really nice move to the upside with continuation. So it's not as simple as I just want to be long. You got to make your adjustments based on where it closed yesterday and in adjusting to what's left in the trade. So that's today's best stock picks. Hopefully you got some value out of that. If you did, absolutely please do me a favor, click down and subscribe. It would mean everything to me. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, leave a comment as well. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So give us a like and have an awesome day. Be safe, everybody.